Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. This is your history class, uh, and for class 7th, week number 4th, April 27th to May 1st. And let's just do a little recap of what we studied the last week. So, in the week 3 or week 3rd, we studied about Al-Khwarizmi, Al-Radi, and Ibn al-Haytham, the three beautiful and the well-famous Muslim scientists of the golden age of the Muslims. So in this particular week, the week 4th, we're going to study the chapter number 2, Muslim inventors and scholars, and I would like you to open your books in order to enhance your learning experience, in order to generate more activity and attention and retention on the book. So topics to be covered in 4th week, page number 9th and 10th of your textbook: Al-Biruni, Ibn Sina, Al-Idrisi, and Ibn Rushd. Your textbook for class 7 is Understanding History by Oxford Publications and written by Ismat Riaz. And I think we should move now and let's begin the lecture, inshallah. So the objectives that we have to achieve with this particular lesson. Number 1, students will be able to know about the famous Muslim personalities and their contribution in the field of science, technology, and whatnot. Secondly, students will be able to comprehend the famous historical events linked with these personalities. Number 3, students will be able to know the contribution in the field of science and technology by Muslim learned men. It's kind of we're carrying the same legacy of the Muslim men, and we're going to study more about them in this lecture. Just I would like you to make up your mind for that and hope it really comes up in a productive way, in a form. So the methodology that we're going to adopt for this particular lecture is presentation slides in line with textbook content, so that you have a holistic view in accordance with your textbook. Audio visual aid resources have been provided, including YouTube links to documentaries, so that you can have another way of learning as well attached with it. Maps, cartography added in slides. You will be able to see that in the slides as well. Home assignment and solved assignment keys are also provided in order to make sure that you have the answers as well, to be able to know more and to really get the whole idea of what we've studied here. Let's proceed to the lecture, my students. So Al-Biruni, 973 to 1050, textbook, page number 9. And he was the most famous and celebrated scientist of the Muslim civilizations in the most earliest times. He was a polymath, he was a versatile person and a linguist with command over Persian, Turkish, Syriac, and also Sanskrit, but he could only write, and he wrote only in Arabic. He wrote more than 100 well-researched books in medicine, geography, astronomy, mathematics, physics, philosophy, travels, and history, but sadly many of his books are lost and it could not be procured and protected. He visited India in 1017 and wrote a book on India's culture, people, society, language. Name of the book is Kitabul Hind. He suggested that the earth rotated on its axis and that the Indus basin was once under the sea. So what he actually researched at that time, that he suggested and wrote in the book, that earth that we now know from the science and modern science, that it rotates around its axis, and the other moon and other planets rotate in their own axes. So this is what he actually researched around, and he was well celebrated for that as well. But sadly, as we've studied here, a lot of books that he wrote were lost. So we don't really have a lot of what he wrote, but what we have is really a masterpiece. It really shows his wisdom, really shows his knowledge and research. So let's move to the other slide. Let's move to the other hero of our Muslims. So Ibn Sina, 980 to 1037, textbook, page number 9. So let's begin. He was a polymath and he was from Bukhara. He was a Hafiz, the one who memorized the Quran. Hafiz. He was a Hafiz of the Quran and had mastered philosophy, mathematics, and medicine. He worked as a doctor at the royal court of the king. He wrote a book on medicine known as Canon of Medicine, Al-Qanun fi Tibb. This book has been used in Europe till the 16th century as the main textbook for the medical students. That really shows the importance of his work. It was so worthy that the people there, they used to use this book in their in their medical studies as a main textbook. Ibn Sina died in 1037 in Hamdan, Persia, and is buried there, and his tomb is also there. So what we know of him is that he was a polymath, he was a versatile person, a genius, he was a hafiz of the Quran, he mastered philosophy, mathematics, and medicine. He worked in particularly as a doctor in the medicine field at the royal court. He wrote a book on medicine known as Canon of Medicine. So this is what we know about him. And if we have to attribute him with one particular, attribution, it would be that he was a doctor. He was someone who dealt with the medicine stuff. Let's move to the other slide. Al-Idrisi 1099 to 1161, textbook page number 10. He was a Moroccan who became famous for his geographical study of then known world and for cartography, which is known as map making. And I've put the images as well at the bottom of your slides. You can see the left one is kind of a depiction of Al-Idrisi, but at the right one is cartography. This is how they used to map. They used to make the map and label them and make the boundaries at the time. He traveled widely and gained knowledge of Egypt, Africa, the Indian Ocean, and the Far East, which he compiled in his book Kitab Nuzhat al-Mushtaq with accurate maps. This, let me tell you, my dear students, accurate maps. At that particular time when there was no advances, there was no technology at the time available, but he made them so accurate. His works inspired and helped later travelers and explorers like Ibn Battuta, Ibn Khaldun, Al-Biruni, Piri Reis, Christopher Columbus, and Vasco da Gama. For 300 years, Al-Idrisi's books were copied by geographers without any changes. It means that his work was so priceless and so masterpiece, it was so good that nobody could think of changing it. He served at the royal court for Roger II at Sicily, where he died in 1161. So what we are now studying here, my kids, is about the beautiful and the knowledgeable past of the Muslims, the civilization, the Muslim civilization, what it really gave to the world in the fields of science, mathematics, physics, medicine, and whatnot. Let's move to the next topic that we have to cover this week. So Ibn Rushd 1126 to 1198, textbook page number 10. And I've posted a picture which is also present in your textbook at the right of your slide, right side you can see. It's figure 2.4, an artist's impression of Ibn Rushd, the philosopher. Let's study about him. Ibn Rushd is known as greatest Muslim philosophers of all time. His family served as qazis and imams of the Grand Mosque of Cordoba in Spain, which really shows that he's coming from a very learned family. He studied law, literature, philosophy, medicine, fiqh, which is Islamic laws, and ahadith, the narrations and traditions of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, from the best scholars in Muslim Spain. So he got the really nice and the best people which actually taught him. He wrote books on law, philosophy, theology, grammar, astronomy, and medicine. He was a versatile genius who greatly influenced the thinking of both Eastern and Western scholars in many disciplines or subjects for almost a century. Yes, a century. He was that kind of person who really had the knowledge, and he kind of really put and wrote the books on law and philosophy and whatnot and cosmology, and really inspired the people, either they're Eastern or Western. So this is it for your week number 4, and I hope you have a good weekend ahead. Stay safe, my kids. Assalamu alaikum.